Yeah, so I'm Bob Forness. I'm the president and executive director of the Olean Business Development Corporation. So, Olean Business Development is a not for profit organization, 501c3, that has the mission of helping develop and support business activities and economic development in the Greater Olean area. Well, it's never a dull moment. We're essentially a landlord. We own this building that's here at 301 North Union Street. We have 4 floors. The first 3 floors are tenants. It's a mixture of for-profit and not-for-profit companies. So we're a building manager. And then the fourth floor is where we're focusing our time and energy on the mission of supporting business development. So it's a little bit of everything. You know, the one day might be helping a tenant with a problem they have in their space that they're renting. Another day might be, pitching a grant for some fundraising for the not-for-profit, piece. Some days it's hosting programming where we've got businesses that come in and get lessons or mentorship from different experts in the area. So every day is different. I think most of my career, and I spent 33 years doing corporate America. Essentially, I was working for larger companies in quality engineering, different aspects of bigger business. Always like to volunteer and do work to help what I call the greater good. So I think I got this opportunity. We were discussing it last summer and found out that it's actually something that I could make a living at. I had thought it would be something I might do when I retired. More volunteer work in other ways, and found out that it was actually something that I could do for a living and still, make a decent living at it and change careers. So it was something that I never would have imagined, but here I am. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I think that's fun for me, even at my age, learning something totally new, learning what the aspects are of a not-for-profit, running to a board, having the board be kind of my boss versus, several layers up in an organization, maybe being, not visible. This is a really active board with a bunch of really good people that are very active in the community. So being kind of mentored and managed by a board of directors is probably the strangest thing for me, but it's also kind of rewarding because I'm learning from some really good people. So one of the areas that I'm starting to focus on a little bit more is part of my role as the leader of a not-for-profit that's focused on business and economic development. There's a group of people that have a similar mission, not a similar way of approaching it, all around Cattaraugus County. So there's a group of us that get together every other week. It's the economic development team is what we're called. And historically, the team has been go around the room, talk to each other about what each other's working on. That's fine. But coming from my background, which is how do you get people to actually work together and how do you truly team together, I've kind of morphed my way into a facilitator role. So actually just yesterday, we had one of our first meetings that wasn't just go around the room. Excuse me. It was actually what problems can we solve together? So one of the ones, just as an example, we're talking about is transportation. People that do want to work don't always have the best, most reliable transportation to get them to work. How can we help that? The city of Olean has the Oats bus. That's something that's pretty well known, pretty comforting to most people, and the ability to use it is pretty well known. Around the more rural areas of the county, around some of the newer things that are going in, the Great Lakes Cheese Factory in Franklinville, how do you get 200 people reliable transportation? 90% of the people can do it themselves, but for that 10% that can't, how do we help that? So that's a real world issue that we're now going to get the collective group of 10 to 12 of us together to brainstorm and problem solve. It's the county economic development people. It's Southern Tier West Regional Commission. It is the Workforce Development Board. It's Tom Cullen and his role with the Innovation Center at St. Bonaventure. It's the Small Business Development Center. These are all the entities that are together. And there's a lot of brain power, a lot of experience, and a lot of knowledge and know-how and contacts that we should be able to pick a problem like that and help it. We may not be able to solve the whole problem, but we should be able to make it dramatic improvements if we work together. So the role that I'm trying to take, because I don't know any of it, because I don't have the experience that these folks have, is to try to facilitate that process, which is what I did most of my career. I was facilitating continuous improvement events for a long time. So I'm trying to use those skills to try to get us in a non-for-profit or not-for-profit government-based set of entities working together towards a common problem. So I think that's where I can bring value to that group and to that team to start to solve real-world issues and problems. So I've only been here around 6 or 7 months, but I know a little bit of the history. So just the fact that we're in a building and talking about business development that has a focus area is a big deal. So when the building was purchased in 2015, that kind of became the starting point, the line in the sand, the stake in the ground, whatever term you want to use for, we have a place in Olean that we can go to develop a business. So that was a starting point. We kind of morphed into trying to help the downtown revitalization of Olean. How do we help businesses improve themselves? So there was programming that was run. There were entrepreneurship classes. There were involvement with the schools. But a couple of the major things that we did that I think were the most successful were actually managing some grants, administering some grants from New York State. So there was a micro enterprise grant, which was helping people start up companies, help with funding, help them get support to start up new businesses. So we funded that. We administered that on behalf of New York State, got some money for the administration of it, but that wasn't really, I think part of the greater good was we helped several companies start from scratch. A second grant that we are in the midst of administering is a part of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative for Olean. It's a facade improvement program. So we've got 20 businesses in the city of Olean that are spending various amounts of money. It's a reimbursement program, so they have to spend the money first to get reimbursed for it, but they're improving the outside look and feel of their businesses. So we're facilitating that process. It's a 17-step process to go from the idea of what you would like to do to improve your facade of your business to getting a reimbursement check from New York State. We're facilitating people through that 17-step process. And it's a learning experience for me. When I first got here, we hadn't had anybody paid out yet. There were 4 that were in process. So we're now up to 9 businesses that have been paid out. They're in reimbursed their money, and the other 11 are in some form of improving their businesses now, with construction and contractors very, very active. And by the end of September, the plan is to have all 20 of those businesses with upgraded and improved facades. This building was part of that program. Just next door at Eads Wallpaper, they were part of that program. So you can almost see Jamestown Community College across the street. You can see some of these businesses and what they look like. And we had before and after pictures, and it was dramatic improvements. And some folks spent upwards of $50,000 and got back 80% of that from New York State. So they put, it was a serious commitment from the business owners to make it look better and to make it more inviting for downtown Olean. There's more work to be done, but if we can get 20 businesses improved with the look and feel, that makes people more apt to go into those businesses. It makes them more comfortable, doing business there. And it makes there's a little bit of peer pressure with maybe people that haven't done much to say, I maybe need to keep my business up a little better because these other folks are really, putting in the time and energy to convert their businesses. So I think that they see the building still has a history of being the OBI building. So it was Olean Business Institute prior to Olean Business Development purchasing the building. So what I think people need to know is that we are more than managing grants. That was a phase of our history that we went through. But as we look forward, we're focusing on entrepreneurship and creating space, programming, and time for businesses to work on their businesses to improve them and make them better, rather than the day-to-day grind that they get into in their business. So we don't have a boatload of money to give out to people. We don't give out money for grants or anything, but we can facilitate them through the entrepreneurial process. We have enough contacts that we've established. We have a what I would call a loose mentor community that we're trying to tighten up. But the end goal here is to let people know that you can start a business and grow a business and improve a business in the Olean area. and we're here to help connect you to the right people to help you do that. We have several other programs that we're starting to think about. And I just don't think that people understand that that's kind of our purpose. We have the Chamber of Commerce as a tenant. That's kind of the face of the place. They start to see, oh, it's the Chamber. Well, it is the Chamber, but we're more the business development side of things rather than the community involvement side, which is what the Chamber is really good at. So I guess it's trying to make sure that folks understand that it's about business development, it's about supporting entrepreneurs, and about helping businesses improve. I don't have much of a legacy established yet, but I would hope that they can continue to rely on the experts that are in the area that may not consider themselves experts. You know, I kind of joke that people don't even call themselves entrepreneurs here. And not that they're ashamed. I don't think they really think they are. When in fact, there are several small businesses and large businesses around the Olean area that were started by entrepreneurs. It might have been 30 years ago. It might have been 10 years ago. Don't forget that those folks are out there. Those folks are there. And most people want to help. They just need to be asked. And if you don't ask them, then they're probably busy enough in their own ways that they may not help you. But if you ask them and give them some ideas and thoughts on how they can help, there's so much help that we can't manage the amount of help that we can get yet. So I guess my message to anybody coming after me would be, don't forget the people that are already here, that are already really good at what they do and have already been down the path of business development themselves. There are resources that we need to always continue to depend on. And we need to continue to refresh those resources as new entrepreneurs grow into their businesses. We need to keep people working and communicating together, trying to basically keep the community being, the entrepreneur community growing. Don't let it stagnate. Well, I grew up in Allegheny. Went to Allegheny Central School before it became Allegheny Limestone. Went to Alfred State College for 2 years, then to RIT in Rochester. Then I moved away. For 16 years, I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, worked in Phoenix for Motorola, and then a spin-off company called On Semiconductor. And then my wife and I moved back 18 years ago now. So I lived here for 22 years, left for 16, and then I'm back. We've been back for 18. So moving back from a bigger place gives you a totally different perspective on a small town and what the advantages are and how you can raise a family in a nice environment and how you still have worries. But I always say that they're different worries here. Your worries here are different than they are in a bigger city. So yeah, I've been here twice, grew up here, and then have been back for 18 years since we moved back into town. Well, because it is my hometown, because I did grow up here. I think the opportunity to try to help keep it solvent, keep it growing, keep it vibrant, giving people new options for places to go eat dinner, for places maybe to shop. I just feel like it's kind of my duty to try to help as much as I can. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have had a great career in the private sector, and now coming more into the public, not-for-profit world, I feel like there's a lot I can give, and I feel like we can really, make a difference. So I just think that it almost feels like an obligation that I just had to do. A lot of the volunteer work I did previously was around serving on boards. I'm still on a couple of boards, but you can only be as active as that board is active. Here, I feel like I can be as active as I want to be and as I can be to contribute. So I just feel like if you can, you should. And I can, luckily. Not everybody can, and I feel like I should help, and I feel like I am starting to help. I don't think I'm having much of an impact yet because I'm still figuring out what I'm doing and how to do it, but I feel like it's coming. Yeah, I think it's because of the atmosphere and the culture of the area. I think it's a small town. Olean and the surrounding areas are not very big. What it has to offer is incredible. The outdoors aspect. There's culture here, even though people don't understand maybe that there or don't think there is. They think you have to drive to a bigger city for it. There's a lot to offer here, and we just need to make it more obvious and apparent to people what is there for them to take advantage of. There is a lot of negativity, and there's a lot of, oh my goodness, how are we going to fix this? This team that I talked about previously that I'm on for the economic development activity, we spend a lot of time talking about problems and challenges. And I jokingly said to that team, there's only one way to eat an elephant, and it's one bite at a time. So if we can start taking some of those bites, it doesn't seem such an onerous task to try to fix some larger problems. So to me, the enthusiasm that people have around here, the leaders in the community are always positive. Yes, there's challenges. There will always be challenges, but they want to help. They want to make it better. So I think that people may consider it a depressed area, and it might be from a socioeconomic statistics standpoint, but the enthusiasm and the energy that people have that I've come into contact with is it's rewarding to see, and it's also contagious. I think people start to go, ooh, I want to get involved. I want to try to help. And again, the more people you ask, the more people you realize, yeah, that is very true. So I would say capacity to do more things. There is a board that helps with the priorities and helps us understand it, but looking to increase the capacity of us to be able to do more. I think we're running, the Olean Business Accelerator. We're running the second cohort of that, trying to help businesses grow at a faster rate than they would normally. We've got ideas for other types of programs for true business incubator type program, early on in their business's existence. There's several other aspects of growing an entrepreneurial community that we just haven't been able to tap yet. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, is how can we get more done quicker to try to build that community that we're trying to build. I think it's about trust. I think that, elected officials are in a difficult spot. They're elected. They have to keep people, and if they enjoy what they're doing and want to be reelected, they need to be careful who they trust and who they truly support and how they support them. So I think, as I'm getting to know that side of the community that I didn't really know very well, working in the private sector and living here is very different than being involved in the public sector of it. So as I get to meet these people that I've read about but don't really know, I think it's just establishing that trust. And that's been something that my whole career, it's been that way. You have to establish trust and credibility. And if you can establish that with people, then you can try to influence them to come not to your side, but come maybe onto your path. Even if they dip their toe in it a little bit at first and then feel like, okay, yeah, I think these guys do know what they're doing. I think they have a good plan. Then they will get behind it and support it. So the challenge for me is to get to know them and establish that trust and credibility at a fast enough rate that I can get some help from them, and then I can in turn help them. It's not a one-way street. It's got to go both ways before they go out of office or before they might change jobs. Wow. That's an interesting question. I haven't ever thought about that. I'm going to flip it back a little bit and say, I used to always think about, what do you do if you win the lottery? And not just a little bit, but if you win it big. If you win several $100 million, what would you do? And I start thinking about what I would do. And I think that a big stress point for people, no matter where you are in the world, and especially in this area, is debt. So if I had a way to relieve people's debt to some level, I think the world would be very, very different in this area, because they would have different worries. They would now be worrying more about, maybe I can do more to help other people rather than having to worry about themselves. And not that they're being selfish. They just have to take care of themselves and their families first. That's everybody's priority. If you could relieve debt from them with a magic wand, then I think you would see a lot more good in people than we see now. I think that people struggle with it every day. I think, the way prices are right now on new vehicles and homes, it's tough for people to get started. I worry about the younger generation being able to buy a house, the way housing prices are right now. I worry about people having to charge gasoline and max out their credit cards because they have no other way to pay for gas. So I think I don't know that it's public, like a big issue that's always in the news or on everybody's minds. But I think if there was no debt, or if people had much reduced debt, it would just make a huge difference in how they go about their days. So we have a website, we have social media. OleanBD.com is our website, and we have the Hub, which is a new co-working space. We have a website in social media for the Hub, which is thehubolean.com. And then we also have the Olean Business Accelerator, which is the main program that we're running right now, with its own website and social media. So I would say social media and the internet are going to probably be your best ways of finding out information about us.